The Brahms Concerto Connection, Chapter 1, An Unexpected Encounter. Andrew Chen had exactly 17 minutes before his piano lesson, and he was absolutely certain Mrs. Henderson would spend at least 12 of those minutes lecturing him about his unnecessarily aggressive approach to Chopin. He didn't care. Chopin was fine, but Chopin wasn't Brahms. The music store's listening station was his sanctuary, a small corner of Henderson's music emporium where customers could preview CDs before buying them. At 16, Andrew knew he was probably too old to be hanging around a physical music store like some kind of analog dinosaur, but streaming services never got the sound quite right. Besides, Mrs. Henderson kept the good stuff behind the counter, and she'd let him listen to anything if the store wasn't busy. Today, he'd selected his personal obsession, Brahms Piano Concerto No. 2 in B-flat major, the fourth movement specifically. He'd listened to it approximately 467 times, and it still gave him goosebumps. Andrew closed his eyes, letting the opening bars wash over him through the chunky store headphones. His fingers began moving involuntarily on the edge of the counter, mimicking the passage work he'd been practicing for months. "Excuse me." He ignored the voice. People always interrupted right at the good part. "Excuse me." The voice came louder, accompanied by a tap on his shoulder. Andrew yanked off the headphones, annoyed. What? Standing before him was a girl about his age, holding a CD case like a weapon. She had auburn hair pulled into a messy ponytail, oversized glasses that kept sliding down her nose, and an expression that suggested she was equally annoyed at having to interrupt him. "You've been hogging the listening station for 25 minutes, she said. "Some of us have actual things to buy." Andrew glanced at the CD in her hand. His eyes widened. "Is that the Zimmerman recording?" "What?" She looked down at the CD she was holding. Christian Zimmerman, performing Brahms Piano Concertos. "Yes, but—" No. Andrew stood up quickly, nearly knocking over the stool. "You can't buy that one." Her eyebrows shot up. "Excuse me? The Zimmerman is good, technically brilliant, obviously, but it's too pristine, too perfect." He was talking with his hands now, a habit his mother constantly complained about. Brahms isn't supposed to be perfect. You want the Gellas recording, 1972, with Joachim conducting. It's raw, emotional, has this almost desperate quality in the second movement that... The second movement is supposed to be desperate, the girl interrupted, pushing her glasses up her nose. It's marked allegro appassionato, passionate. But Gellas rushes the third movement cadenza like he's got somewhere better to be. Zimmerman actually respects the architecture of the piece. Andrew blinked. No one he knew, literally no one, could have this conversation with him. Architecture? He couldn't help the slight smile forming. Brahms isn't architecture. Brahms is... It's like controlled chaos. It's supposed to feel like it might fall apart at any second, but never does. "That's literally architecture," she said, but she was almost smiling too. Controlled chaos that doesn't fall apart, also known as structural integrity. They stared at each other for a long moment. "I'm Andrew," he said finally. "Jessica." She shifted the CD case to her left hand, but didn't extend her right for a handshake, which Andrew appreciated because handshakes were awkward. "And I'm still buying the Zimmerman." "Mistake." "Your opinion." "Fact." "Insufferable," Jessica muttered, but she was definitely smiling now. Mrs. Henderson's voice echoed from the back of the store. "Andrew, your lesson started 3 minutes ago." "Oh no." Andrew grabbed his backpack. "Look, I have to... Wait." He pulled out his phone. "What's your number?" Jessica raised an eyebrow. "Smooth." "No, not like... yes, but..." Andrew felt his face heating up. "I just meant we should continue this argument about Brahms, because you're wrong, but interestingly wrong." "Interestingly wrong?" "It's a compliment in classical music discussions." Jessica laughed, actually laughed, and held out her hand for his phone. She typed quickly and handed it back. "Text me. We can argue about Brahms all you want, but I'm still buying the Zimmerman." "Andrew! Coming!" He practically ran toward the lesson room, then turned back. "The second concerto is better than the first." "Obviously," Jessica called back. "I'm not a barbarian." Chapter 2. The Text Debate. That evening, Andrew sat through a dinner where his parents discussed their days in excruciating detail, while he pushed noodles around his plate and thought about auburn ponytails and passionate debates about pianist interpretations. He'd never met anyone his age who even knew who Brahms was, let alone had opinions about specific recordings. Most people at his school thought he was weird for playing classical piano. His ex-girlfriend, Madison, had come to exactly one of his recitals before deciding that watching someone sit at a piano for 30 minutes was boring. She wasn't wrong exactly, but she wasn't right either. After dinner, he escaped to his room and stared at his phone for a full 10 minutes before texting Jessica. Andrew, so I've been thinking about your terrible taste in Brahms recordings. 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again. Jessica, I've been thinking about your inability to appreciate technical precision. Andrew, precision isn't the point of Brahms. The point is feeling. Jessica, you can have both. Zimmerman has feeling and doesn't sound like he's pounding the keys with meat tenderizers. Andrew, Gilels is passionate, not pounding. Jessica, Gilels is aggressive. There's a difference. Andrew grinned at his phone. This was the best conversation he'd had in months. Andrew, okay, fine. What about the first concerto? Who's your favorite there? Jessica, Pellini, no contest. Though the Brendel is interesting. Andrew, okay, see, now we can be friends. Pellini is correct. We can be friends because I agreed with you? We can be friends because you have one good opinion to balance out your bad ones. You're impossible. Impossibly right. I'm blocking you now. No, you're not. No, I'm not. They texted until midnight, moving from Brahms to other composers. They agreed on Rachmaninoff, disagreed on Beethoven, had a lengthy argument about whether Liszt was a genius or a show-off, and somehow ended up discussing their favorite movies. She liked Wes Anderson, he liked Christopher Nolan, and food. They both had strong opinions about sushi. When Andrew finally put his phone down, his face hurt from smiling. Chapter 3. The Practice Room Surprise. Jefferson High School had exactly 3 practice rooms for student musicians, and they were always occupied. Andrew had learned to arrive at 6 a.m., a full hour and 15 minutes before school started, to claim Room B, which had the best piano, a slightly out-of-tune Yamaha upright that nevertheless had decent action and didn't sound like it was dying. On Monday morning, he arrived at his usual time with his coffee and sheet music, ready to work on the Brahms piece he'd been learning, the Intermezzo in A major, Op. 118, No. 2. Not one of the concertos, but still Brahms, still beautiful, still challenging. He opened the door to Room B and froze. Jessica was sitting at the piano, her back to him, playing Brahms, playing the exact same Intermezzo he'd come here to practice. Andrew stood in the doorway, completely still, listening. She was good, really good. Her technique was clean, precise, of course, but there was something else there too. A gentleness in the phrasing, a vulnerability in the softer passages that made his chest feel tight. When she finished, he cleared his throat. Jessica spun around on the bench, nearly falling off. Oh my God! Sorry, I didn't mean to. I usually practice here in the mornings. Jessica said. I've been coming here since September. I've been coming here since freshman year. They stared at each other. How have we never... Andrew started. I have no idea, Jessica finished. That was really beautiful, Andrew said. The Brahms. Jessica's cheeks turned slightly pink. Thanks. I've been working on it for months. Still can't get the middle section quite right. My teacher says I'm overthinking it. I'm learning the same piece, Andrew said. My teacher says I'm underthinking it. Jessica laughed. Maybe we're perfect complements. Maybe we should practice together sometime. The words came out before Andrew could stop them, and he immediately felt stupid. Who suggests practicing together? That wasn't a thing people did. But Jessica was nodding. Actually, that's not a terrible idea. I mean, for the Intermezzo, we could work through the difficult passages together. Really? Sure. Unless you're going to spend the whole time telling me I'm playing it wrong. I would never, Andrew said solemnly. I'd wait until you were finished, then tell you. Jessica threw a pencil at him. Chapter 4. The Coffee Shop Summit. They met at Java Junction on Wednesday after school, both bringing their marked-up copies of the Brahms Intermezzo. The coffee shop had a small upright piano in the corner that no one ever played, and Jessica had called ahead to make sure they could use it. Okay, Jessica said, setting down her caramel macchiato. Too sweet, in Andrew's opinion, but he was trying not to be judgmental. Show me how you interpret the opening. Andrew sat at the piano, suddenly nervous in a way he never was when performing. He played the opening bars, trying to channel the melancholy beauty he heard in the piece, the way it seemed to capture a memory of something lovely that was now gone. When he finished the first page, he looked up at Jessica. She was staring at the keys, her expression unreadable. Well, he prompted. Play it again, she said quietly. The second phrase, but slower this time. He played it again. There, Jessica said. Right there. That rubato, that slight pulling back on the tempo. My teacher keeps telling me to do that, but I can't hear it the way I need to, but you do it naturally. Really? Really. She pushed her glasses up. Now move. Let me show you the middle section. They traded places. Jessica played the more turbulent middle passage, her hands moving with absolute precision through the complex runs and thick chords. Andrew watched her fingers, the way she navigated the difficulties with an ease he hadn't yet achieved. See how the left hand has to stay completely steady? She said, not looking up. It's like an anchor while the right hand is having a crisis. Andrew laughed. That's exactly what it's like. How did you? Practice, Jessica said. So much practice. Also, my teacher made me play the hands separately for 2 weeks straight. 2 weeks? I know. I nearly quit piano. But you didn't. Jessica stopped playing and looked at him. No, because then I finally heard how the voices worked together, how the stability of the left hand makes the right hand's turmoil more powerful. It was worth it. They spent 2 hours at the coffee shop, trading places at the piano, working through the piece measure by measure, sharing insights and techniques. Andrew showed Jessica how he voiced the chords to bring out the inner melodies. Jessica demonstrated her approach to the climactic fortissimo section that had been giving Andrew trouble. Somewhere in the middle of it all, their hands collided on the keyboard, Andrew reaching to show her something while Jessica was still playing. Sorry, he said, pulling back quickly. It's okay, Jessica said, but her cheeks were pink again. You know, Andrew said, I've been playing piano for 10 years, and I've never enjoyed practicing with someone else before. Same, Jessica said. Most people just don't get it. The music, why it matters. Why does it matter? Andrew asked. To you, I mean. Jessica was quiet for a moment, her fingers resting on the keys. When I play Brahms, especially the slower pieces, I feel like I'm having a conversation with someone from over 100 years ago, someone who felt the same things I feel, the longing and the melancholy and the beauty and sadness. Does that sound stupid? No, Andrew said. That doesn't sound stupid at all. Their eyes met, and Andrew felt something shift. Some line they'd been hovering around suddenly crossed. I should probably get home, Jessica said, breaking the moment. Homework. Yeah, me too. They packed up their music, movements suddenly awkward where they'd been comfortable before. Same time next week? Jessica asked as they headed for the door. Definitely. Walking home, Andrew couldn't stop replaying the afternoon in his head. Not just the music, but the way Jessica's eyes lit up when she explained a particularly tricky passage, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was concentrating, the way she'd looked at him when their hands touched. He was in trouble. Chapter 5. The Concert Invitation. Jessica. So, there's a thing this Saturday. The text came during Andrew's calculus class. He ignored it for approximately 30 seconds before risking Mr. Patterson's wrath to check his phone under his desk. Andrew, a thing? Jessica, the symphony is doing an all Brahms program. Including the second Brahms concerto? Because you don't check the symphony website obsessively like a normal person? Who's the soloist? Yefim Bronfman. Andrew actually gasped out loud, earning him a sharp look from Mr. Patterson. Bronfman is a legend! I know! I got tickets the day they went on sale. My dad was supposed to come with me, but he has to work. So I have an extra ticket, if you want. Andrew stared at his phone. Was this a date? Was Jessica asking him on a date? Or was this just two friends going to see a concert? Did friends who were girls ask friends who were boys to concerts? Was there a protocol for this? I would love to come. Great. It starts at 7. We could meet there. Perfect. It's not a date or anything. Right, obviously. Just two Brahms enthusiasts enjoying a concert. Exactly. Cool. Cool. Andrew put his phone away and tried to focus on derivatives, but all he could think about was Saturday and whether or not he should dress up, and if not a date meant she definitely didn't want it to be a date, or if she was just saying that so it wouldn't be awkward if he didn't think of it as a date. Dating was more complicated than Brahms. At least Brahms had clear notation. Chapter 6. The Symphony. Andrew changed his outfit 4 times before his mom knocked on his door. You're going to be late, she called. I'm not going to be late. You've been getting ready for an hour and a half for a concert that you've been to before. Andrew opened the door. Does this look too formal? He was wearing dark jeans and a button-down shirt. His mom smiled. Who is she? What? No one. It's not like that. Andrew. He sighed. Her name is Jessica. We met at the music store. She likes Brahms. We're going to a concert. As friends? Just friends? I don't know. Andrew ran his hand through his hair, probably messing it up. Maybe? She said it wasn't a date. But you want it to be a date? Mom! She laughed. You look nice, sweetheart. Very appropriate for a not date with a maybe girlfriend who likes Brahms. Go. Have fun. Text me when it's over. Andrew arrived at the concert hall at 7, which gave him exactly 15 minutes to be nervous. He stood outside the main entrance, watching people stream in. Mostly older adults, a few college students, almost no one their age. Hey! He turned to see Jessica climbing out of her mom's car. She was wearing a dark blue dress that Andrew had never seen before, and her hair was down instead of in its usual ponytail. She looked beautiful, and Andrew's brain temporarily forgot how to form words. Hi, he managed. Sorry I'm a little late. My mom couldn't find her keys. Jessica walked up to him, looking slightly nervous herself. You look nice. So do you. I mean, not just nice. You look... Andrew stopped himself before he could say something embarrassing. Should we go in? The concert hall was stunning, all red velvet and gold trim, with a massive chandelier hanging from the ornate ceiling. Their seats were in the dress circle, with a perfect view of the stage, and the Steinway grand piano positioned for the concerto. These are incredible seats, Andrew whispered as they sat down. My dad has a subscription. He usually takes me to at least a few concerts a season. Jessica was reading the program notes. Oh, interesting. They're starting with the Tragic Overture. Fitting, Andrew said. Brahms was kind of obsessed with tragedy. Weren't we all at some point? The lights dimmed before Andrew could respond, and the orchestra began. The Tragic Overture was powerful, dark, everything Andrew loved about Brahms' orchestral writing. But he was acutely aware of Jessica sitting next to him, close enough that their arms were almost touching on the shared armrest. He could smell her perfume, something light and floral that was incredibly distracting. Then came the intermission, and then the moment they'd been waiting for, the Piano Concerto No. 2. Yefim Bronfman walked onto the stage to enthusiastic applause. He was a large man with a powerful presence, and when he sat at the piano, Andrew knew they were in for something special. The concerto began, that gorgeous horn solo in the opening, then the piano entering with those gentle, almost tentative notes. Andrew had heard this piece hundreds of times, but hearing it live with a full orchestra was transcendent. He glanced at Jessica. She was leaning forward slightly, completely absorbed, her hands clasped in her lap. The first movement built to its powerful climax, the piano and orchestra in perfect dialogue. The second movement, that desperate, passionate allegro Jessica had mentioned, had Bronfman attacking the keys with controlled fury. The third movement brought unexpected tenderness, a gentle scherzo that felt like a breath after the intensity. And then the fourth movement, Andrew's favorite, with its playful, dancing themes and virtuosic demands. Bronfman's fingers flew across the keys, making the impossibly difficult look effortless. When the final chord rang out, the audience erupted. Andrew and Jessica were on their feet immediately, applauding until their hands hurt. "That was incredible," Jessica said, practically shouting over the applause. "That was perfect," Andrew agreed. They floated out of the concert hall on a cloud of musical euphoria, talking rapidly about their favorite moments, arguing about the tempo choices in the third movement, geeking out over Bronfman's technique. "Did you see his left hand in the fourth movement?" Jessica was saying.
"The way he brought out the bass line while maintaining the melody? And the second movement cadenza," Andrew added. "I've never heard anyone take it that fast and still maintain the emotional intensity." They ended up at a diner around the corner, continuing their conversation over milkshakes, chocolate for Andrew, strawberry for Jessica, neither of them wanting the night to end. "Thank you for inviting me," Andrew said. "Seriously. That was one of the best nights I've had in a long time." Jessica smiled, stirring her milkshake with her straw. "Me too. It's nice having someone who gets it, the music thing." "Yeah." There was a pause, comfortable but charged with something unspoken. "Andrew," Jessica said carefully, "when I said this wasn't a date," his heart jumped. "Yeah? I maybe should have said I didn't know if you wanted it to be a date, so I was giving you an out, if you needed one." "I didn't need one. I don't need one. An out? I mean," he took a breath, "I really like hanging out with you. And it's not just the Brahms thing, even though the Brahms thing is amazing. It's you. I like you." Jessica was blushing now, but smiling. "I like you too. So this could be a date, if we wanted?" "If we wanted." "I want." "Me too." They grinned at each other across the table, and Andrew felt lighter than he had in months. "Although," Jessica said, her eyes twinkling, "you still have terrible taste in Brahms recordings." "Take it back. Never. I'm leaving right now. This relationship is over before it started." "You can't leave. You haven't finished your milkshake." "Watch me." Neither of them left. Chapter 7. The Recital Disaster. 2 weeks later, Andrew had his fall recital, a semi-formal concert where Mrs. Henderson's students performed for family and friends. Andrew had been preparing for months, and his main piece was, of course, Brahms, the Intermezzo in A major that he and Jessica had been working on together. He'd invited Jessica immediately, and she'd promised to come, but as he sat backstage waiting for his turn to perform, he was more nervous than he'd ever been for a recital before. "You'll be fine," his mom said, patting his shoulder. "You've practiced this piece 1,000 times." "I know, but Jessica will be in the audience?" Andrew nodded miserably. "Andrew, that girl has heard you play this piece. She's practiced it with you. She knows you're good. What if I mess up?" "Then you mess up. It happens. The world doesn't end." Easy for her to say. Andrew's turn came. He walked onto the small stage in Mrs. Henderson's studio, saw Jessica sitting in the third row with his parents, and immediately felt both better and worse. He sat at the piano, took a breath, and began. The opening went well, that melancholy opening theme flowing naturally from his fingers. The first page was perfect. The second page was fine. And then he got to the middle section, the turbulent part Jessica had helped him with. And his mind went completely blank. His hands kept moving, but they were playing the wrong notes. He tried to recover, to find his place again, but the more he scrambled, the worse it got. Finally, he just stopped, sitting at the piano in awful silence. "I'm sorry," he said to the audience. "Can I start again?"
Mrs. Henderson nodded encouragingly from the side of the room. Andrew began the piece again, this time from the beginning. His hands were shaking now, and his confidence was shot, but he pushed through. The second attempt was better. No major train wrecks, but it wasn't the performance he'd hoped for. When he finished, the applause was polite rather than enthusiastic. He fled backstage immediately, mortified. After the recital ended, Andrew tried to avoid everyone, but Jessica found him in the practice room where he'd hidden. "Hey," she said softly. "That was horrible," Andrew said, not looking at her. "I completely fell apart." "You recovered. I had to start over." "So, even professional pianists have memory slips. It happens." "Not to me, not usually." Andrew finally looked at her. "I'm sorry, I wanted it to be perfect." Jessica sat down on the piano bench next to him. "Andrew, you know what I thought while you were playing? That you made a huge mistake becoming friends with someone who plays Brahms like a drunk elephant?" She laughed. "No, I thought about how brave it is, what you did. You could have just walked off the stage when you messed up, but you didn't. You started again. You finished. That takes guts. It takes stupidity. It takes courage." Jessica bumped her shoulder against his. "Besides, the first part was beautiful, before your brain sabotaged you." Andrew managed a small smile. "Thanks. Also, I brought you something." She pulled a CD from her bag, a peace offering. Andrew took it and laughed. It was the Gillels recording of the Brahms Piano Concerts, the one he'd recommended to her that first day at the music store. "You bought it?" he said. "I bought it. And you were right. It's raw and emotional and kind of perfect." Jessica pushed her glasses up. "Don't let it go to your head." "Too late. My head is enormous now. I can tell. Barely fits through doorways." They sat together in comfortable silence for a moment. "Andrew," Jessica said. "Yeah?" "For what it's worth, I think you're an amazing pianist, even when you mess up." He looked at her. Really looked at her. This girl who'd crashed into his life arguing about recordings and somehow become the person he most wanted to see every day. "Can I kiss you?" he asked. Jessica blinked. "Here? In the practice room? Terrible idea?" "Definitely terrible." But she was leaning closer. "Mrs. Henderson could walk in any second." "Extremely likely." "We should not do this." "Absolutely not." They kissed anyway. It was brief and slightly awkward, with their glasses bumping together and Andrew nearly falling off the piano bench. But it was also perfect in its imperfection, much like his performance, but much, much better. When they pulled apart, both of them were grinning like idiots. "So," Jessica said. "So? We should probably go back out there before our parents send a search party." "Probably." Neither of them moved. "Jessica?" "Yeah? Will you be my girlfriend? Like, officially?" Jessica pretended to think about it. "Will you finally admit that Zimmermann is a valid interpretation of Brahms?" "Never." "Will you at least listen to the Zimmermann recording with an open mind?" "I already have. It's good, but Gillels is better." Jessica laughed. "You're impossible." "Is that a yes?" "That's a yes." Chapter 8. The Perfect Duet. Spring semester brought new challenges. Andrew was preparing for a regional piano competition. Jessica was auditioning for a summer music program, and they were both drowning in AP classes and college prep stress. But they made time for each other. Practice sessions that turned into study sessions, coffee shop dates where they quizzed each other on history dates while debating the merits of different Brahms interpreters. Long phone conversations about everything and nothing. One day in March, Mrs. Henderson approached Andrew after his lesson. "I have a proposition for you," she said. "The spring showcase is coming up, and I'd like to feature a four-hands piece. That's a piano duet. I was thinking you and Jessica could perform together." "Jessica isn't your student," Andrew pointed out. "No, but I've heard her play, and I know you two practice together. Plus, I think it would be good for you." "You're too much in your own head when you perform solo. Having a partner might help." Andrew was skeptical, but when he mentioned it to Jessica, her eyes lit up. "Oh my God, yes! I've always wanted to perform a duet." "Yeah? Are you kidding? It would be so much fun. What piece?" They spent hours researching four-hands repertoire before Jessica found it. The Brahms waltzes, Op. 39. 16 short waltzes, originally written for 4 hands, romantic and playful and technically challenging. It's perfect, Jessica said. We could perform a selection, maybe 5 or 6 of them? They began practicing together twice a week, squeezed close together on the piano bench, their hands crossing and recrossing as they navigated Brahms' interweaving melodies. It was intimate in a way Andrew hadn't expected. Not romantic exactly, but deeply connected. They had to breathe together, move together, anticipate each other's musical choices. When one of them rushed, the other had to adjust. When one played too loudly, the other had to balance. This is so much harder than playing solo, Jessica said after a particularly rough run-through of Waltz No. 15. But also more fun, Andrew suggested. Also more fun, she agreed. They practiced until their playing began to synchronize, until they could communicate with just a glance or a slight shift in weight. The waltzes came together beautifully, playful one moment, tender the next, sometimes both at once. The night of the showcase, Andrew was nervous but excited. This time, he wasn't walking onto the stage alone. They'd chosen 6 waltzes, arranged in a narrative arc from bright and cheerful to melancholy to ultimately hopeful. When Mrs. Henderson announced their performance, Andrew and Jessica walked onto the stage together and sat at the piano, Jessica on the left for the lower parts, Andrew on the right. They looked at each other once, a quick exchange of ready, and began. The first waltz was light and dancing, their hands moving in perfect coordination. The second was more thoughtful. By the third, Andrew had forgotten to be nervous. He was too caught up in the music, in the joy of creating something beautiful with someone else. Their hands collided several times, overlapping in the crossovers, but it felt like part of the dance rather than a mistake. In Waltz number 14, they both leaned into a particularly expressive phrase at exactly the same moment, and Andrew almost laughed with the pleasure of that unplanned synchronicity. When they finished the final waltz, slow, sweet, wistful, the audience burst into applause. Andrew and Jessica stood and bowed together, and when they looked at each other, they were both beaming. Backstage, Jessica grabbed his hand. "That was amazing." "That was perfect," Andrew corrected. "We were so in sync." "Did you hear how the 4th waltz came together? The way we both pulled back at the same time?" "I know, and the ending." They were talking over each other, high on adrenaline and accomplishment, when Mrs. Henderson appeared. "Beautiful work, you two," she said. "That's what music is supposed to be, a conversation, a partnership. You should be very proud." After the showcase, they sat on the steps outside the venue, not wanting the night to end. "You know what I love about playing with you?" Jessica said. "My incredible technique and interpretive genius?" She elbowed him. "Besides that, I love that when we play together, it doesn't feel like a competition. Like I'm not trying to be better than you or show off. I'm just trying to make something beautiful with you." "Same," Andrew said. "Also, you make me better. Like, I hear things differently when we play together. That's because I have superior musical insight. There's the Jessica I know." She laughed and leaned her head on his shoulder. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars come out. "Hey, Andrew," Jessica said after a while. "Yeah?" "Thank you." "For what?" "For arguing with me about Brahms that day in the music store. For being just as weird about classical music as I am. For making this year," she paused, "really special." Andrew took her hand. "Thank you for having terrible taste in piano recordings." "I don't have terrible taste." "Agree to disagree." "You're impossible. But you like me anyway." "I do," Jessica said, smiling. "I really, really do." Epilogue. Summer plans. The last day of junior year arrived with a mixture of relief and melancholy. Andrew and Jessica had survived AP exams, final projects, and the general chaos of being 16 and overscheduled. They met at Java Junction, their usual spot, to celebrate and to discuss their summer plans. "So," Jessica said, stirring her usual caramel macchiato, "I got into the summer music program." "Jessica, that's incredible!" Andrew high-fived her across the table. "When do you leave?" "July 1st. It's 4 weeks at a conservatory upstate. Intensive piano study, music theory, chamber music. She looked down at her coffee. I'll miss you. I'll miss you too, but this is amazing. You're going to learn so much. What about you? Competition results? Andrew grinned. Second place. Not first, but I'm honestly happy with second. The kid who got first was incredible, and I didn't have any memory slips. That's growth. Jessica raised her cup in a toast to surviving performance anxiety, to not falling apart on stage. They clinked cups. So we'll have July apart, Jessica said. But August? I'll be here, Andrew confirmed. Working on college applications and probably driving my mom crazy. Want to do something when I get back? Like a big celebration of summer thing? Symphony's doing an outdoor concert series, Andrew suggested. They're performing the Brahms First Symphony in August. Not a piano concerto? Nope, but still Brahms. I'm in. They spent the rest of the afternoon making plans, not just for summer, but for senior year. For college applications, they'd both decided to look at schools with strong music programs, for all the concerts they wanted to attend and pieces they wanted to learn. At some point, the conversation drifted away from concrete plans to broader dreams. Do you think you'll study music in college? Jessica asked. Like, as a major? Andrew considered. Maybe. I love it, but I don't know if I want to do it professionally. Performance is so stressful. Teaching could be nice, like Mrs. Henderson. What about you? I think I want a double major, music and something else, maybe math or engineering. I like the idea of music being something I love rather than something I have to do for money. That's smart. We're 16. We have time to figure it out. True. Andrew reached across the table and took her hand. Whatever we end up doing, I'm really glad I met you. Even if you do have questionable taste in Brahms recordings. For the last time, Zimmerman is an excellent... Jessica stopped and laughed. You're never going to let that go, are you? Never. Fine, then you're stuck with me and my questionable taste forever. Forever? Jessica squeezed his hand. Well, at least through senior year. We can renegotiate after that. Deal. They left the coffee shop as the sun was setting, walking slowly toward their respective houses, taking the long way because neither wanted to say goodbye yet. Hey, Andrew, Jessica said as they reached the corner where they usually parted ways. Yeah? Play me something. Right now. There's no piano here. Sing it then. A Brahms melody. Anyone. Andrew thought for a moment, then began humming the opening of the Intermezzo in A major, the piece that had brought them together, that they'd both struggled with and eventually conquered. Jessica joined in, humming the harmony, and for a moment they stood on the street corner making music together without any instrument but their voices. When the melody ended, they were both laughing. We're such nerds, Jessica said. The biggest nerds. I wouldn't have it any other way. Andrew kissed her goodbye, a quick, sweet kiss that still made his heart race, even though they'd been together for months now. Text me when you get home, he said. Always. Walking home, Andrew thought about the past year, how a chance encounter at a music store had led to friendship, then something more. How arguing about Brahms' interpretations had become the foundation for understanding each other. How learning to play together had taught him more about compromise and connection than any solo performance ever could. His phone buzzed. Jessica, made it home, already missing you. Andrew, it's been 5 minutes. Your point? No point, I miss you too. Jessica, hey, I've been thinking. Dangerous. What if we learned the Brahms variations on a theme by Haydn for 4 hands next year? Andrew, that's a huge piece. I know, but we have all year, and we're good together. Andrew smiled at his phone. Andrew, we are good together. Let's do it. Jessica, perfect. It's a date. Well, many dates. Practice dates. Andrew, the best kind of dates. Good night, Andrew. Andrew, good night, Jessica. He put his phone away and looked up at the stars, thinking about next year and the year after that, about music and math and all the possibilities ahead.
Whatever the future held, he knew one thing for certain. It would be better with Brahms. And even better with Jessica, even if she did have questionable taste in recordings. The end.